Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. Sorry for the hiatus. I had to go to the mothership. It was a crazy time. Joe Rogan was there. Tony Hinchcliffe, Brian Holtzman, Joey Diaz. I met Joey Diaz, talked to him. So I know there's been a little bit of hiatus on the channel, but it was because I've just been getting some things together, and it's just been an incredible time. I'll tell you more about that. Watch Joe Rogan's stand-up. Actually funny. A lot of people talk a lot of smack about Joe's stand-up. The new stuff I seen, he's talking about USAID, he's talking about Fauci, he's talking about... It was solid. It was really good. I'm telling you, the naysayers on his comedy, you're going to come around on this one. I guarantee you. But right now, Joe Rogan's talking about due process. And when we're talking about due process, when it comes to the Trump administration, this is the man that keeps on coming up. They've coined him the Maryland man. His name is Kilmar Gracia. Now, he was detained in 2022 under suspicion of human trafficking. There's a lot to this guy, but he was sent to an El Salvadorian prison, and people feel like it was wrongly done, and there should have been some due process. Now, I'm going to play Joe Rogan talking about all that, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of the whole Trump administration talking about it. I mean, Trump's going to talk about it, Pam Bondi, Marco Rubio, Stephen Miller, even the president of El Salvador. So you're going to get the whole breakdown of what's actually going on with this guy. And then we're just going to dive into a little more about him. But a lot of people confuse this whole due process thing, and they think that this guy's the one that you have to look at, and you have to question if the Trump administration is really doing the right thing. And by the end of this, you're going to be able to make that decision for yourself. Let's start with the Joe Rogan clip, and then we'll jump into the rest.
You know, not good.
How does it get that bad?
I don't know. But then there's also legitimate arguments on the other side. Like the other side is making a very legitimate argument about the right to due process if you get processed and shipped out of the country and put in a prison in El Salvador. You know, what is the quote? Was it Benjamin Franklin's quote about innocent, and that it's better to allow 10 guilty people to go free than one innocent person arrested? You know, I'm on that side of things.
Yeah.
I think due process exists for a reason, and the reason is it is horrific for someone to be accused of something they didn't do, be imprisoned for crimes they didn't commit, and then live in a cell, live in a cage with a bunch of
people who did commit shit.
Here it is, Benjamin Franklin. It's better 100 guilty persons should escape than one innocent person should suffer. That is wisdom.
Yeah.
That has survived hundreds of years. It's incredibly accurate, and it is the foundation of freedom. Like, we have to make sure that these people are actually guilty, otherwise we become monsters. You can't, like, what is that? When you fight monsters, be careful that you don't become one.
Become one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very important. It's very important. You know, you can't do that. But also, you also have to deal with the fact that the current administration is dealing with the past administration, allowing known gang members and terrorists to go right through the border unchecked. That a lot of them they know got through. They don't know the exact numbers, but they know there's millions and millions of people illegally just walk through unchecked, and a bunch of them have to have criminal records. A bunch of them have to be dangerous, and we've seen crimes that have been committed. It doesn't help anybody on the progressive side to deny the fact that that's a real problem. And if it happens to your family, God forbid, I don't want it to happen to anybody's, but if it does, you will feel a sting of regret if you supported that, unlike anything you've ever experienced in your life. You'll be like, I mean, it's one of those things where to support one side of this, you have to deny some like basic human values. Either way, like to support just rounding people up and just assuming they're all gang members. I'm not saying they're doing that, but this is the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
They get a bunch of people in a room, they rope them all in, and one guy's just someone's cousin picking someone up to give him a ride home. That's possible.
And now you're back on the one innocent person. Now you're right back.
And what if that dude is not doing anything wrong and he's got some stupid tattoos, and they decide that this guy's a gang member, and now you're in a prison in El Salvador, and you're not even from El Salvador. And now, you were just a hairdresser, or you were a tattoo artist,
family
or whatever
man.
you are.
Yeah.
You came over here, and maybe you got a green card, and maybe you don't. Maybe you were just given asylum, because a lot of people from Venezuela were given asylum in America.
Yeah.
And then you get shipped to El Salvador, where you're not even from El Salvador. So that the fact that that exists scares the shit out of me. But also the fact that they were just letting terrorists and gang members flow freely into the country is fucking horrible. And when you talk about innocent people, what about the innocent people that got murdered by terrorists and well, not terrorists, that really hasn't happened, but gang members and this Trender Wagwa that were taking over those apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado, and like that's scary shit, man. Armed with machine guns, taking over apartment buildings. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, what are we talking about? You're letting that happen? You're not sending in the troops to stop this?
Yeah, and you think that wouldn't, in your head, you're like, that can't happen in America, in Colorado.
Bro, they got a guy that had done that in California, and they refused to deport him because they said that California is a sanctuary state. They're like fighting to keep a known gang member free in America. The whole thing is bananas. It's like almost like you don't want to go full tinfoil hat, Sam Tripoli style, and just decide that they're trying to destroy America. But if I was going to try to destroy America, that's how I would do it.
Yeah.
I'd take over the political process, impart censorship on all the social media, like gaslight people to no end, consistently do it, AstroTurf stadiums filled with people pretending they support something, pay them to be there, manufacture a movement, and slowly but surely bring chaos to all the cities. Allow DAs to get elected that are the worst when it comes to protecting people and the best when it comes to freeing violent criminals. And that's really their goal. And they can do it. They can just use words like racial justice and like just send murderers back out into the streets. You just create chaos. Defund the police. Now you have no police. Like if I wanted to destroy America, I would do it this way.
I mean, what you just described sounds like like a plan from another place. It's like, oh,
if you wanted to destroy America,
if we really wanted to, not with war, but let's just slowly let them kill themselves, type stuff,
and then have them at each other's back, at each other's throats, rather. You know, constantly have them fighting over political issues. Let's get rid of Roe v. Wade. They're a little too happy right now. Get rid of Roe v. Wade, then the liberals are up in arms. How you motherfucker? Which was getting rid of Roe v. Wade was actually a good move if you were a Democrat, because then people get upset and then they really want to vote. Like you could probably ignite a lot of people. And that was like there was some famous videos. There's one famous video of this lady celebrating that Kamala Harris was going to win. And she was like, reproductive freedom. Women came out to vote in unprecedented numbers. I'm sure you've seen it. It's a video of this lady mocking this guy working at a liquor store.
No,
did you ever see it?
I didn't see this.
It's so good. It's so good because it's like this lady and the way she's talking, like you can't be a good person and talk to someone this way or even about someone this way and be happy in the way you're happy.
Yeah.
Like it's like people like to be shitty to people and think that it's justifiable to be shitty if that person disagrees with you. So you could be shitty. Whereas the guy in this story is not being shitty to her at all, but she's being super shitty to this guy. And but she's talking about reproductive rights. Because like that was like one of the big things that got people to come out and vote for the Democrats.
Yeah.
If I was playing 4D chess and I was a Democrat, I was like, this is what we do.
Get rid of ourselves.
Get rid of ourselves. Get rid of that. And then campaign on that. Okay, now we got all the women
pissed off
because women don't want men telling them what to do. Bitch, you can't get pregnant. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up.
Shut up.
Until you can get pregnant, shut the fuck up. You know?
Yeah.
It's like so. This lady, you got it, Jamie? You can find this video. It's so funny. This poor lady, but it's about reproductive rights. Like she's saying that, and it was in a.
You hear that? He's like, "You got that, Jamie?" Jamie's like, "Nope." What's going on with Jamie? Jamie, if you want to retire, let me know. I am like 30 minutes from the studio. Let me know. I am ready. Put me in, coach.
For a lot of people. But that was a big one. So like you would do that. You would do that. You would get rid of that. You would try to get rid of the Second Amendment. Fuck the Second Amendment. We're going to get rid of all guns. Oh, the fucking gun guys, get up for the Republicans. You know, and then, you know, you would say, we need open borders because we need, our society is population collapse. And they were starting to say things like that. And we need, you know, who's going to pick cotton? They're essentially marketing it because they're saying Americans don't want these jobs, so we have to bring people in to pick our crops. Who's going to clean your toilets? People are openly saying that, like not realizing how racist.
Oh, I remember that lady. The one white lady, she told him, she was like, "Who's going to clean your toilet if they get rid of all the Mexicans?" It's like, what the fuck?
Who said that?
It was like one of those crazy
one of those view bitches.
She's one of them, or at least a show like
God.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hilarious.
It was Ozzy Osbourne's daughter. She actually said that. With a nice British accent. It just sounded so good. Who's going to clean your toilets? And then there was a Hispanic lady on the set, on the panel as well. And she was like, oh, you can't. She's like, no, you know what I mean? I would never say it like that. I'm just trying to. Because it's no holds bars when you don't like Trump. You can just say whatever. It's like, what do you mean? We can be racist against Trump. It's fine. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
So there was that going on. If you wanted to like destroy society and make it worse, what would you do? You bring people in from a third world country, don't have them change anything, financially incentivize them to be there, give them free money while you're not helping the poor people in America. They were giving them debit cards, free housing, free food, putting them up in the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City. Why, you old shit? If you wanted to destroy society, that's how you would do it. That's how you would do it.
I mean, that sounds...
You would just keep
like it's
doing
working.
Like it's going in that direction.
Yeah.
So the problem with things that are going in a radical direction, and then there's an overcorrection. So the overcorrection is lack of due process. The overcorrection is like round them all up, ship them to jail. Like that's like some things that you say when you're not thinking things through. Like, what do you do about all the criminals? Take them all, fucking send them to El Salvador.
Yeah.
What about due process? No, fuck that. But here's the problem with fuck that. What if you are an enemy of, let's not say any current president. Let's pretend we got a new president, totally new guy in 2028. And there's this common practice now of just rounding up gang members with no due process and shipping them to El Salvador. You're a gang member. No, I'm not. Prove it. What? I got to go to court. No, no due process.
That's
right?
dangerous, Joe.
That's dangerous.
That's
dangerous. That's dangerous. We got to be careful that we don't become monsters while we're fighting monsters. But then again, you got to find these motherfuckers that are here that have terrorist cells and that are ready to fucking blow up malls in Dallas and do crazy shit, which definitely they've thwarted before.
Yeah.
So like this is the best argument for intelligence agencies is that there's real threats. You know, like for someone to say, fuck all the CIA, fuck the FBI. What, are you crazy? Who's going to investigate real threats? Like the real world exists. As much as you want to pretend that that we can all go kumbaya tomorrow if we all just lay down our arms. No, there's people that are 48 years old and dedicated to crime. They've been dedicated to crime in Guatemala, and now they're here. And now they're selling fentanyl, and they're not going to stop. Okay?
They don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and they're on EBT cards where you're getting money from the government for free every month because you're in a sanctuary city, and you get free food, and you're a criminal. And then one of them, like two of them, assaulted cops in New York City and then got free. No cap.
Everybody knows about that. Those guys are free. They have not done any jail time, and no one knows where they are. They could still be in New York, but there was a big crackdown in New York on Tren de Agua, and they were a part of it. They were a known part of it. So now they're gone, and they could be anywhere. Probably California. That would make the most sense because you're kind of able to just lay low out there. Nobody will ever question you. You can go and vote in the next election. No one will ask you for ID. It's fine. And then if any cops give you any trouble, you just beat them up. You're fine. That's it. You're good. You just run out. But one thing that I want to talk about, I'm going to show you all the clips and everything. But I would love to know from people, because I was talking about this on my other channel during a stream, actually, a live stream. What do you think about shipping people to El Salvador? Because right now it is the Aliens Enemy Act of 1798. That's what's enabling Trump to be able to do this, right? A federal judge has ruled that he can do this. He can use this act, right? So he's sending people who are a part of MS-13 and Tren de Agua, right? Because those are foreign gangs that are coming into the U.S. by the thousands. But do you think he should be able to just round everybody up and send them over to El Salvador? El Salvador is in the process of making another jail facility. They want as many people as Trump is willing to send. That's what the president said. And he has no problem doing it. It's a small fee, so it's revenue for their country. It takes them out of America, which is what Trump ran on. It's what he promised. So there's a lot of people who are actually expecting it. But do you think it's good to actually do that? And then, okay, that's one question. But what it's actually turning to, and in this press conference they actually talk about it a little bit, is sending American criminals. Now, what Trump prefaced this as, was guys who are just repeat offenders. You've been arrested 20 times. You refuse to stop. You keep on getting all this violent crime. You're doing heinous acts to people, subway things that you see in New York, people getting pushed on the tracks, all sorts of stuff like that. What do you think about those people being sent to El Salvador? Because that is something that is now on the table. That is something that the Trump administration is actually talking about. Where I stand on that is, it would be a great deterrent, because here's the thing. Here's what's going to happen if Trump actually goes through with that. A lot of black guys are getting sent to jail. And I shouldn't just say black guys. A lot of Chicago gang members, a lot of Bloods, a lot of Crips, a lot of those people, they're getting sent over there. And that's it. But at the same time, would that be better? I think it would be a massive deterrent, and I think it would be a good deterrent for people to act better. But also, there's jails in America, and those jails are pretty rough themselves. And it doesn't seem to be a deterrent for those type of people here in America. So why would it be a deterrent in El Salvador? I'm just because El Salvador is worse, but it's not worse at the same time. I don't know. It'd be really hard. If it would be a good deterrent for black gang members to act right, because if you had to go to El Salvador, it's all El Salvadorians. So you're not even going to be able to form a clique of people, because that's what usually happens in jail. That's why a lot of jails aren't a deterrent in America, because if you're from Chicago, you know what jail you're going to, and 10 of your friends are already there, 20. You know who's there, so you're just going to be chilling with one set of friends on the outside, another set of friends on the inside. So maybe it is actually a good deterrent to send them to El Salvador, because then they have no one. And then that's a real terrible situation to be in. I don't know. That's just something that's, I don't know, because it's on the horizon, and Trump's going to do it, because the president of El Salvador, he has voiced that he is up for it. He's up for the task. He has no problem with that. Trump said, if you build more places, why wouldn't we do that? And at the same time, as much as this sounds crazy, it would end up making for a much safer society. A lot of people, and I don't mean this race-wise, but a lot of people point at like Poland and they go, whoa, Poland's really safe. Poland's also really strict. They're strict on immigration. They're strict on crime. They don't play that stuff. You know what I mean? There's a lot of El Salvador, very safe. They don't play around. You want to be a gang member and shoot up places like you see in America all the time. You want to go off in a Waffle House and do all sorts of crazy stuff. White, black, doesn't matter. You're gone. I don't know. I'll admit, because, I'm biased. I know. Big Trump supporter. But it sounds messed up when I say it. But when you start to weigh out what it could do for society versus how it could deter people from entering a life of crime, you start to be able to make sense of it. I would love to know what you guys think about all that. But let's move on. I have it straight from the horse's mouth here. Donald Trump sitting with the president of El Salvador. They're talking about this whole guy here, the guy who I was showing you here, the Maryland man who they claim has been wrongly deported. This is a pretty good breakdown of everything. You're going to understand this situation through and through, because although Joe is talking about due process and the lack thereof, you'll notice that the situations that he's talking about, he didn't refer to the Maryland man, but that's who he's talking about, because there's nobody else right now. The other people who went there, confirmed gang members, everybody knows. And there's also a barber who got sent as well. I'll talk about him a little bit as well. But it turns out there was quite a bit of due process. So let's listen.
He grew up well in the last 5 years.
Do you support the extension for nationals of El Salvador under temporary
support
protected
him.
status?
Do you plan to ask him?
Let's hear the question from this very low-rated anchor at CB.
Thank you, President. Do you plan to ask President
Low-rated.
Bukele to help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly
Which one is it?
deported? The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, two courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
So will you return him,
And
President Bukele?
you are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Usted estaría
But
dispuesto
Stephen
a
Miller,
enviarlo-
wait a minute. Can you just also respond to that question? Because, you know, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant, because they're totally slanted, because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question?
This whole press conference, he is going off. Trump is going off on CNN. It's crazy. And it's just Caitlin Collins. It's Caitlin Collins, and he's just reaming her out every chance he gets. It's beautiful to see.
Question also.
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As 2 immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world, and I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan
But
to
the
ask for
Supreme
any
Court
help
is
to get
asking
him back?
to.
And
that-
what was the
is
ruling
that your
in
position?
the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0
In our favor?
in our favor against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual, at El Salvador's sole discretion, was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time.
Well,
No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it, per the court, can only be directed to him.
I asked
¿Usted lo
President
liberaría,
Bukele,
Presidente
what is
Bukele?
can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm suppose you're not suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right?
It's
I mean,
always
how can I smuggle, how can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not gonna do it. It's like, I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
So you can release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. I mean, we just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into our
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people. Marco, do you have something to say about
Yeah, I mean, Stephen outlined it. I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin. Except for Venezuela, that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
And that's what the Supreme Court held, by the way, to Marco's point. The Supreme Court said exactly what Marco said, that no court has the authority to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. We won a case 9-0, and people like CNN are portraying it as a loss, as usual, because they want foreign terrorists in the country who kidnap women and children. But President Trump, his policy is foreign terrorists that are here illegally get expelled from the country, which, by the way, is a 90-10 issue.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And they
How
said
long do we have
that
to answer
it must
this
be
question,
facilitated.
Julia? Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over? And that's why nobody watches you anymore. You know, you have no credibility. Please, go ahead.
President Trump.
Why can't you just shut your handsome mouth? I don't understand. So long I have to answer this question. This is crazy. We just got a COLIN segment here, everyone. Okay, she's not getting no ratings on CNN, so she comes to the White House, wants her own segment. This is crazy stuff, guys. Oh man, I'm telling you, he was the whole time. It was like every 7 minutes he would insult CNN, just on repeat. Just it was amazing. It was amazing. They even started out the questions. Right away, she said something, and he's like, no, we're not starting with you over there. It's wild. Wild. You know, that's what Collins gets. When he called her a nasty woman, when he was talking about Ukraine and Russia, and he said he just wanted people to stop dying, he never forgot. He never forgot, and now you're in the White House. Now he's bullying you around. He's pushing you around. You gotta take that now. It's the way that goes. But there's a pretty full explanation from the entire cabinet. Now, if you're in the camp where you're just like, this is Trump's cabinet, they're all lying. That's it. If you're part of Blue Anon or something like that, I understand completely. I, for one, hear everything they're saying and I go, okay, all of that makes sense. It makes sense that the mainstream media would take this story and kind of pervert it because there is room to, because the guy is a father, right? And I'll be open with all the facts. The guy is a father. He does have children who are in America. So right away, that tugs at people's heartstrings. The guy has a father, there's a baby mother involved, and now he is in El Salvador and he cannot come back to see his family. That's it. If they want to see him, they're going to have to meet in some other neutral place, or they can go to El Salvador because El Salvador is actually massively safe right now. So they could go back there. But that's not what you want to do with kids. I know that. I'm not going to sit here and act like that's the perfect solution to the whole thing. You don't want to uproot kids and say you're going to live in El Salvador so you can see your father. It's rough. It's very rough. But that is what people voted for. Like it or not, a lot of people were promised that there would be, and let's face it, you tell me if I'm wrong. I'm sure there's a lot of people who were expecting millions of people gone by now. Like 10 million people. I thought it was going to look like, oh, they're just by the busload, by the plane. I thought it was going to look terrible. The numbers haven't been everything that we thought it was going to be. Maybe for you. But I thought they would be near 10 million people out of the country by now. I did not think it would be near 1 million. I don't even think they're near 1 million yet. So I think they're still in the 6 figures, if that. It's not quite what everybody imagined. So, like it or not, this is what people voted for. He's instated this act because he wanted to expedite the process. He's working with El Salvador because he wants a place for them to have to go in case the countries that they're from won't take them. This is the option on the table. A lot of people don't like it, but what can you do? Anyway, a little more from Stephen Miller here. I was going to say Stephen A. Smith because he kind of is the political Stephen A. Smith, this guy. He really is. He's really outspoken. He's really vocal about what he means. He doesn't play around. His points are usually really on point. He's like Bizarro World Stephen A. Smith. He's a Republican. He's white. They're both bald. You know, Stephen A. Smith isn't bald, but might as well be. Might as well, you know? Anyway, let's listen to what he has to say, and then I'm going to jump over to some more stuff.
Well, as an example, there are thousands of either trained Nicaragua members left in this country or their affiliates and associates. So obviously some portion of those will be going to El Salvador as part of our effort to eradicate this foreign terrorist organization from the United States. But there's no upper limit to the agreement. We're going to continue to send foreign terrorist aliens to El Salvador as well as to many other countries.
I
think you were first.
Is the president asking President Bukele today to send Mr. Abrego Garcia back to the U.S.?
again, to be very clear about this, the Supreme Court ruled that the district court cannot, obviously, compel us to conduct diplomacy or foreign policy with another nation. And so they overturned the district court order. And they said very clearly that the district court, it was actually a unanimous ruling, overreached in that ruling. I'm not going to reveal any head of state conversations or conversations at the State Department or the lower level, but the important point that we all agree on is that he's an El Salvadorian. That is his country of nativity and citizenship. He is an illegal alien in the United States. He has no lawful right to be here. He was issued a final order of removal from this country. And so it's up to El Salvador and to the government and the people of El Salvador what the fate of their own citizens is. We can't extradite citizens of foreign countries to our country over the objection of those countries. Obviously, to do that would be a monstrous violation of international law. We can't go into other countries and kidnap their citizens and then take them back into our country. That's up to El Salvador and their own.
To send him back, right?
But it's their own citizen, right? So remember, this whole entire conversation has been wrong from the beginning because nobody was mistakenly deported anywhere. That's like the big fact that most of you have gotten wrong. No one was mistakenly sent anywhere. The only mistake that was made is a lawyer put an incorrect line in a legal filing and they've since been relieved of duty. He is El Salvadorian. He is an illegal alien. He was deported to El Salvador. I would welcome anyone here to tell me what country they think we should be sending El Salvadorian illegal aliens to.
Didn't a judge order that
Canada
he not be deported to El Salvador 5 years ago?
So what you're referring to is an immigration judge. So that's Article 2, not Article 3. So there was no Article 3 restraint on his removal. A withholding order or a cancellation of removal order, first of all, as I'm sure you know, does not eliminate the deportation order, right? We all agree on that. So his status was he's an illegal alien who's been ordered deported, which means he can be indefinitely detained and removed to any other country in the world, right? He can be sent to literally any country on the face of the earth. But the preference, general matter, is to deport someone to their home country, right? In this case, El Salvador. Because he is a member of a foreign terrorist organization, withholding orders don't apply to FTOs for obvious reasons. So if you had an illegal alien, say from Syria, who's a member of ISIS, they can't apply for withholding of removal. So that principle applies here. Furthermore, the gang that he said was going to persecute him, so this theory that he's an MS-13 and there's this rival gang, the 18th Street gang, doesn't exist anymore in El Salvador. So the entire concept is false. But again, when the media talks about the idea that there was a mistaken removal, it implies to, I think, a normal listener, the wrong person was sent somewhere. He's an illegal alien from El Salvador. Where was he sent? To El Salvador. Where does he belong? In El Salvador.
Right? It's different
he belongs.
Sending someone home and sending them into a prison that they could remain in for
It is
life.
up to El Salvador how to handle the process for their own citizens. Again, what you seem to be asking us to do is to change the government and the laws of El Salvador. So if we deport somebody back to, for example, Syria, should we be closely involved on a day-to-day basis with the Syrian government, detailing that person's life and future? If we deport, say, 100,000 people back to Haiti, should we open a case file on each of those 100,000 people and ask every day, what's their housing situation? What's their healthcare situation? What might they need? What might they want? Once someone's out of our country, that becomes the problem of their host country, not our country. These people...
So, I think he's making it very clear here. The media just keeps on trying to spin the conversation, and they're trying any way to make the Trump administration seem very heartless. And again, it's kind of easy because the guy's a father. You call him the Maryland man instead of the El Salvadorian man. You show his kids, and again, if that was me, I'd be heartbroken. I think any father would. But again, you're in the country illegally. A lot of people voted. Tens of millions of people voted to have people who are in the country illegally removed because it's too much of a problem, too unvetted. It just looks crazy. Now, Joe Rogan's saying this is like an overcorrection. I don't really think it is. It's like, what are you going to do with all of them? Send them to El Salvador? It's like, yeah, kind of. Because if you have this thing set up where El Salvador will take them, well, then you're probably going to use that. kind of makes sense that you're going to go, okay, we can send them all to El Salvador because we have that set up with the El Salvadorian government. Kind of makes sense to me. I don't know. I don't know about anybody else, but that's what you would do if you could. Now, if every single country was willing to take everybody and you could in essence round everybody up, that'd be a different story. Then you'd probably want to send them wherever. So, but again, ICE is not hitting those numbers like everybody thought. They're not hitting 100,000 people a week. I think some weeks they're not even hitting 2,000. So, small enough number that they can actually pull off this El Salvador thing. And again, Trump is using the act from 1798, which makes it so he can do this. It may not be pretty, but it is very smart what he has set up because it's enabling him to do this. But again, please answer on what you think about homegrown people, American citizens who are criminals getting sent over there. I think a lot of people will be for it because a lot of people are tired of being unsafe. They're tired of, the same way they're tired of all these people coming into the country unchecked. They're also tired of gang members doing gangland stuff around them, making places unsafe, literally eroding the streets of Chicago, the streets of New York, the streets of Atlanta, the streets of Houston. People are tired of it. I think a lot of people are going to be for it. I don't know if it's an overcorrection or if it's just, I don't even know what you would call it. You might call it healing in a sense. And again, I'm black, so I know there's a lot of black people that'll go. But again, it's not a race thing. Because I think a lot of people would be for it if it was white guys who were criminals and skinheads and causing calamity and chaos in the streets. People are just tired of that. They want safety. They want law and order. That's what they were missing the past 4 years. So now there's a correction. Now, these are the tattoos that this man has, this Maryland man. These are the tattoos he has. Apparently, and this is actually pretty smart in my opinion. The M is a marijuana leaf because marijuana starts with M. The smiley face is the S because it's smiley, starts with S. And then the cross is a 1. And then the skull represents the 3. Both of them together represent the 13, which kind of makes sense in a dark way. So these are the tattoos that he had on his hand. And here's the thing. A lot of people go, oh, well, that doesn't say anything. You have to remember, the FBI has a ton of symbols. They have symbols for every race, color, creed, gang. They have all the symbols, whether it's underworld people doing heinous things, or they have all the symbols you can possibly think about. And so does El Salvador. El Salvador, their prison, they actually have an expertise in identifying the gang tattoos of MS-13. And they're starting to build one on Tren de Agua. So when they see this stuff, they know right away that he's affiliated, whether he says it or not. Now, this will also give a little clue into who this guy is because, just like Carmelo Anthony and his representation, I don't know if you heard about that, Austin sadly losing his life to this kid who decided to just take him out for no reason, basically. His representation actually turned out to have a very dark past. Same with this Maryland man. Listen to this.
For years at this point, this is part of a playbook. The only problem is, of course, the Democrats have been running around saying, oh, this guy, he's so sweet, he's so innocent, he's kissed by an angel. But unfortunately, that's not the case because his wife, who's out there giving all of these pleas, saying, please donate to our GoFundMe, please donate to our GoFundMe, she actually filed a restraining order on him in the state of Maryland. Kind of funny, by the way, how the entire media couldn't figure this out, and a local Maryland blog was able to pull it up, the Chesapeake Times, and so they're able to get it up, but nobody in the entire media was able to pull this together. She says she wants him home, and yet She kicked him out of the home and filed a restraining order on him. Or maybe, just maybe, it's all the money that's rolling in because she saw the money rolling in for Carmelo Anthony's family that they're using to buy new cars, that they're using to get a new house. And she thinks, I want to get some of that for myself. It's disgusting, but understand what you're looking at is a parasitic operation and a playbook that's been in place for a long, long time.
Yep. I didn't even know that he mentioned Carmelo in this clip, but yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. The GoFundMe's, it's wild what people are actually trying to hold up. And you know, I say people, but when it comes to the left, and I won't blanket statement it, but you see a lot of people on the left, they're trying to uphold pretty chaotic things. And this is just one of them. The guy's a gang member. You know, the barber that I'll talk about in a second, he's a confirmed gang member as well. They're doing it through the tattoos or the database of tattoos that they have. It's funny enough, I saw one of these tattoos just today. Now I'm thinking about it. Now, if you didn't know, the president of El Salvador retweeted this. If you don't know what these lines are, it's something you have to look up. But it just shows who's in control in a situation. And people always do this. They'll show the lines, and whoever has the more straight line is really in control. Whoever's leaning in is quite the beta. And you can see this Democrat senator leaning into this man here, who is the gang member of El Salvador, because he was visiting him in El Salvador in a pretty much, let me just say this, pretty much in a stunt, a publicity stunt of sorts. Because you're not going to be able to talk to this guy and get him back into the United States. That's not happening. It's just not happening. So this was just some grandstanding by the Democrats to show like, oh, we stand by you guys. And Trump, whew, wow, he's ours. He's just kicking you guys out left and right. But we stand next to you guys. It's like they always pick the wrong people. Kid with brain cancer who's at Trump's speech, they're like, I'm not clapping for him. Gang member who's confirmed a gang member, MS-13, they're like, gosh darn it, we're going to get that man back inside of here. We're going to get this man back with his family in here. Can I get an amen? They all scream, Hail Satan. I'm kidding. They don't do that. Here, this was made. Okay, this is a New York Times article that somebody ended up tweaking to say Senator meets with Deported. They scratch out Maryland man. They write MS-13 illegal alien in El Salvador, and then they write who's never coming back. Now, who would do such a thing? You guessed it. It was the White House. This is a tweet from the White House. They say, fixed it for you, New York Times. Oh, and by the way, Chris Van Hollen, he's not coming back. Wow. Just giving it to everybody. Just straight from the White House. You see Trump tweet something like this, you're like, that's Trump. You see the White House tweet something like this, it's like, holy, good God. I love it. I can't deny it. I love it. Stephen Miller had something to say about this Democrat senator who is trying to get this guy back into the country. Here it is.
Senator Van Hollen seems to be under the very confused impression that this MS-13 terrorist is his constituent. He is President Bukele's constituent. He is President Bukele's citizen. He is President Bukele's resident. He is not a Maryland man. He is not a Maryland anything. He is an illegal alien from El Salvador with a deportation order from the United States. He is not legally even allowed to be in our country. Under the due process that these Democrats so venerate for illegal invaders, it is legally impermissible for him to have one more minute in this country. So we honored the law and obeyed the law by getting him out of this country. And if the entire Democrat Party was to work itself into a state of emotional hysteria to demand the return of illegal gang members and terrorists to our shores, then that 21% will soon be 15, and then it'll be 11, and then all they'll have left is the support of actual confirmed MS-13 members, and that will be the entire base of the Democrat Party.
But Miller.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous. Of course that's ridiculous. Let's jump over here. So there was a barber as well who had the same thing happen to him. A lot of people, again, it was easy to tug at the heartstrings because it was like, hey, this guy was working, this, that, he's a legal immigrant. He was there illegally. And then people, well, I shouldn't say people, then the El Salvadorian government, they figured out via his tattoos that he was affiliated. And a lot of people keep on kind of having this thing where they go, well, I mean, you can't verify through tattoos. It's like, but that's how they verify. That's how they do it. So if they have a system of tattoos that tell people who they are, then you have to be able to figure out that system and then do the same thing. You know, when those guys aren't walking around like, you know, I have a lot of reverence for tattoos. I like tattoos a lot. So when I see those guys with the face tattoos and everything, that's not just a bunch of nonsense on their face. It's telling a whole story of who they are. Some symbols mean that they've taken people out. Everybody knows about the teardrop and what that means. But then some of it, like if they get like a head tattoo, if they get some groups, if they get a star, that means something. If they get stars on their shoulders, it means something. On their knees, it means something else. There's a whole, if it says like the name of a town, if it says a certain number, that will be like a certain crypt set or a certain blood set. Like there's all this stuff. Tattoos tell a real story. So people thinking like, oh, you're just taking those tattoos and making assumptions. It's actually pretty valid. That's what they do. Now, let me just get to another point. Because this isn't the only thing when it comes to due process. These are the main stories that people are focusing on. But there was also a girl, I think she was, I feel like she got rolled up on in the middle of the street. A bunch of cops, they were plain clothes, undercover. They only showed their badges after they detained the woman. And it looked very 1984-ish. Now, that was also a case where they were saying it wasn't due process. Then there's the guy, I think his name's, what is his name? Khalid? I think his name's Khalid. He's getting deported right now. But either way, these are people who are very anti-American, right? And people are also saying this is undue process because, you know, they have student visas and things of that nature. I would love to know what you guys think because I think that there should be deterrence towards gang members, of course, illegal activity, of course, coming to the country illegally, of course, but then also there should be something, and this is just me, where you should have to like America. You know, Marco Rubio said, if we knew that this guy, I should get his name. I shouldn't just keep saying this guy for you guys. Khalid, I forget what his name is. It's like Mahmoud or something like that. I just don't, I didn't pay attention to this guy because I really didn't care about his situation. I got to be honest. He's getting deported right now. He's getting deported, and a lot of people feel like he shouldn't be getting deported. But, you know, Marco Rubio said, he's like, well, if we all knew that you were planning on having all these rallies and anti-American this and anti-America that, well, then, you know, we wouldn't have given you a green card. Deported from USA. What if I just write that? Let's just put deported from USA. Yeah, we got the Maryland man again. People aren't even talking about this guy anymore. The news cycles go so quickly. People just stop talking about the guy altogether. But what do you think about that? You know, all in all, like his story matters, but it doesn't really matter. There he is. Khalil, Columbia student. Khalil can be deported. This is 6 days ago. Let's play this quickly.
A U.S. immigration judge ruled on Friday that Columbia student and Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil can be deported, allowing President Donald Trump's administration to proceed with its efforts to deport Khalil, who was arrested in New York City a month ago, but has not been charged with a crime. A group of supporters.
So they're saying he hasn't been charged with a crime, but he was leading rallies. You know, a lot of these rallies cause some pretty wild destabilization, especially when it comes to universities. They're trying to stop that whole thing from happening. Marco Rubio says, again, if we knew this is what you were going to do, we wouldn't have given you a green card. So they want to revoke that. And it seems that they are allowed to revoke that. I think that should be allowed too. I think there should be, and it used to be this way with people who came into the country, immigrants. They loved America. They thought of America as amazing. They would get sworn in as citizens and they would cry. They would be so happy. It doesn't seem that way anymore. It seems like a lot of people are coming in with this F America idea, and I feel like they should be able to say whatever they want. I think they should be able to say whatever they want. But at the same time, if you're in the country, green card, student visa, you should probably mind your P's and Q's and not try and destabilize the society that's taken you in and given you a better chance at life. I don't know. You let me know what you guys think about this whole thing. This is like a little full breakdown here for you guys. Anyways, I am out.